let me share my slides first. Um, okay. Hang on. Yeah. Okay, nice. Okay. Can anyone see my slides?
Yes.
Because I cannot see. Okay, I give it to you, right? Good. Okay. Right. I think we should start because I've been given only 2 hours for this session. Right. My name, for the start, my name is Associate Professor Dr. Hayatul Safra Saleh from Faculty of Business, Economics and Social Development. Right. Actually, I was asked to share a little bit, my knowledge on Module 2, which is Research Methodology and Data Collection, focusing on quantitative study, right? For qualitative study, another speakers will talk about it, in another room, right? So, actually, I've been in UMT almost more than 10 years already, and my background is marketing. I specialize in marketing and also management related studies, right. Okay. Before I start my session, it's just that I want to let you know that my slide is not so, it will be boring actually. It's just black and white and so forth, because I don't know how to. I hope you are not sleeping, because it's very dull slides, But I hope all those what we are going to share, what I'm going to share with you can give you benefits in terms of your study in UNT, right? So we can start with research methodology and also the data collection. So in this today, we will discuss about a few things, but all are related to research methodology. Then in a later slide, I will show you, or we will discuss what does it mean by methodology in research, focusing on only quantitative, right? Okay. And then we will also look into sampling design and also what are the options for you to the methods the methods for sampling, and then what are the most common used by researcher in data collection methods as well. And lastly, we will discuss about the common data analysis methods. Why I said common here, because there's a lot of data collection, and also there's a lot of analysis and method that you can use to analyze your data. But then we will only discuss about the most common, what normally the researcher will do, will use in their research. Okay. What is research methodology? Okay, so research methodology questions or to address research aims and also the objectives of your study. So it must be this research methodology must you have to use the right research methodology so that to ensure your study or your data is valid and reliable. You will get the reliable results to answer your objectives. Yeah. You cannot use, if your friends used, let's say, a qualitative study, and then you also want to do the qualitative study, cannot. You cannot do like that. You have to look at what are the purpose of your study and what are the objectives that you want to obtain at the end of your your study. So you have to select very systematically design the methods that you want to use. Yeah. And also in your thesis, you have to justify what are the method that you are using, or you are going to use, and why you use that method. Because these are kind of the questions that the famous question that normally during Viva, the examiner loves to ask the student, why you use this method, or you have to justify in your thesis. So that's why you have to have a strong understanding about research methodology. Because this is very important, because if you select a wrong research methodology, it will affect the whole thesis for chapter 4, 5, and 6. For the analysis or for the discussion and so forth. So please make sure that the research methodology that you use is the right one for your research based on your objectives and also your aims. Right. So research methodology actually covers a few aspects. The most important aspects are like what data to collect, who to collect it from. This one is sampling design. There's a lot of sampling design, so you have to choose it rightly. And then how to collect it. Data collection method. There's a lot of method to use. And the other one is how to analyze your data. So this actually research methodology covers these 4 important areas or aspects. You must have all these things. You must know what data to collect, who is your sample or your population, and what types of data collection methods that you want to use, and lastly, what types of data analysis method that you want to use. But I will not discuss in details about these data analysis, because you will have another session with another speakers to discuss about that. Okay. Right. There are three types of data that normally I think you all are already familiar with, which is quantitative quantitative methods, qualitative methods, and also mixed methods. So it depends on you which one you want to use it. Which one is the most suitable for you to use it in order to answer your questions, research question and research objective. Okay. But however, in today in my session, I will focus only on quantitative, right? Okay. So quantitative basically related to numbers and testing the hypothesis. Counting it, measuring it. So and also it's focused on measurement, and testing, measurement and testing using numerical data. Okay, when we talk about quantitative, it's about numerical data and the numbers, because we translate whatever the variables, the items, the measurement, we translate it into numerical data. Okay, I will explain later in the next slides. In details. So the second most frequent use by researcher is qualitative methods, in which this qualitative methods is about wording, and sometimes about images, observation, conversation, photograph. This is related to qualitative. So it's referred to research which focuses more on collecting and analyzing words, or whether it's written or spoken. Sometimes you also in qualitative methods you also can analyze the body language of your subjects or of your samples, or visual elements of them, or of the your samples. So it's in qualitative more to about words. It's not numbers. You cannot test or you cannot analyze the numbers in qualitative, but you will discuss or you will talk, or you will analyze the wording, the image, the observation, and so forth. So the last types of data is mixed method. When we mixed method, meaning that is combination of both quantitative and also the qualitative methods. Sometimes researcher loves to use this to integrate this perspective and also to create a rich picture or a rich findings about their studies. So it depends on students. Some students use mixed method, some use only one types of data, quantitative or qualitative method. It depends on you, because if you use mixed method, it will create a rich findings. However, sometimes it will, will have you need a longer time, to collect all those data, because you combine two types of data collection. Right. Okay. So now we are looking at the quantitative methodology. So as I explained earlier, quantitative methods is about measurement and testing using numerical data, in which this numerical data we can translate it, or what we are going to study. For example, if we use the variables such as gender, or ethnicity, age, or attitude, it could be converted. All these variables should be converted into numbers without losing the meaning. So, what do you mean? What do you understand about this? Never mind. You cannot answer it right now, right? Okay, because you mute your mic. Right. So meaning that we translate these variables. For example, gender, male or female, right? So we put number 1 for gender, male, and number 2 for female, and then we put this number in our data software, right? If you use SPSS, for example, and then you put number 1 or number 2, depends on who, depends on your sample, right? Or your respondents. So same goes to ethnicity. If you have 4 ethnicity, maybe Muslims number 1, Chinese or whatever. So you put numbers into that measurement. You put numbers also in for for example, for variables attitude or psychology, or what else? Awareness, perceptions. We normally use items to measure the attitude or the awareness or the perceptions of the consumers, for example. So those items also, you ask the respondents to to mark or to select. Normally we used a semantic or Likert scale, right? So we use Likert scale, number 1 to 5, or number 1 up to number 7, or number 1 up to number 10. That depends on you which one. You have to justify why you use 5, why you use 7. So meaning that when, for example, if you analyze attitude of the respondents, so you have the items, maybe 5 questions to measure his or her attitude. So for each single items, or single questions, you will ask them to tick either 1 to 5 in the Likert scale. One maybe, not agree, something like that. So agree in the middle, and then agree and most, agree, something like that. So and then we in our data. In our data, in our SPSS, we put it numbers there. We don't put all those items, or the attitude 1, attitude 2. No, we don't put that. We put numbers. So we translate those into numbers, in order for not losing the meaning of it. So used when research objectives are confirmatory in nature, meaning that we in our objective, or in maybe in our in your hypothesis, you want to confirm whether your questions or your objective is right or wrong, something like that, or it's got relationship or not. A difference between A and B, is there any different or not? That is how we if you want to ask about that, and then you have to use a quantitative methods. And then actually quantitative method is harder to develop, because you have to find a lot of you have to read a lot of literature of past studies for you to to get the to develop the measurement for your every variables that you want to use in your study. It's harder to develop, but it's easy to analyze, because it's about numbers. You just put all those answers from your respondents, and then you just analyze using whatever analysis method that you want, you decide to use in your study. Okay. For quantitative method, the confirmatory studies that I discussed earlier is about, for example, if you want to measure the relationship between two variables. For example, you want to see whether is there any relationship with personality types and willingness to consume organic product among students, for example. I said you want to see the relationship, so you have to you should use quantitative methods. Or another example is to measure differences between groups. For example, the popularity of different car colors among Malaysian cars, for example. Or you want to see the differences between male and female in terms of car colors selection. So you want to see the difference between groups. So you normally we can use t-test or ANOVA. And then lastly is to test a set of hypotheses. In our study, normally we will do this to test a set of hypotheses. We have a few hypotheses in our studies, and to test those hypotheses, we normally use quantitative methodology. We will discuss about all this later in the next slides. Yeah? I hope you understand up until this slide. Yeah. Okay. Why? Okay. Right. What is research hypothesis? So, with research hypothesis is an idea, or explanation for something that is based on known facts, but has not yet been proved. Okay, so that's why we hypothesize. We hypothesize whether this relationship between A and B has a positive relationship or not. We have not known yet, but we have the base already, because why? Because we read literature review, right? In literature, we know already, but then maybe the different studies has been done in different contexts or in different locations, and has produced different findings. So in your case, for example, you want to test it again, but then by using different contexts or different sample, for example. So you want to use it in Malaysia or in university setting. So by your respondents is maybe it's not students, but then you want to test the hypothesis among lecturers, for example. So that is the research hypothesis. Something that is based on known facts but has not yet been proven. Because why? Because this is the first research has been done using university layout, context, and your subject or your sample is lecturers. And maybe before this, there's already have a sample, but not lecturers, but maybe students or staff, administration staff, for example. So you want to prove your hypothesis, whether there is a relationship or not, and so forth. So, a research hypothesis also is a statement about an expected relationship between variables or explanation of an occurrence that is clear, specific, testable, and also forcible. Foreseeable is a disprovable. So this is an example of a hypothesis is, for example, a customer's perception of a financial advisor's expertise has a positive relationship with their trust in said advisor. You understand, right? So in this hypothesis, it showed that it's very specific, in which the customer's perceptions very specific, because you want to test between customer's perception and this advisor's expertise. That is very specific. And then you also in testable, because why? Because you want to see whether it's positive or negative. Is there any positive relationship between them, between these two? And then this provable, meaning that your hypothesis also must be disprovable, meaning that maybe your hypothesis, what you wrote, your statement of hypothesis is positive relationship, but when you analyze the data, the results say that there is no relationship at all. So this means that disprovable. So your hypothesis must have this clear, specific, testable, and disprovable. That is the the things that must have in the statement of the hypothesis. Okay. Now we look at sampling design. So sampling design is about deciding the samples. What is samples? Samples is who you are going to collect your data from. That is your samples. And samples comes from population. The big population, there is some slice of population, we call it samples. Okay, so there are two main categories in sampling design in quantitative methods, which is two main categories for sampling design, which is probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Yeah, two main categories. So we will discuss later. Okay. There's a phone call. I have to stop for a while. Hello? Yeah? Hello? Sorry, I thought it's from our admin. Yeah? Okay. Why I cannot move my slides? I cannot move my slides. Why? Hang on. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. Now we go to the population and sample. All right. Population is the entire group of people, or maybe animals, or maybe companies, or whatever. It depends on your study. So normally for social science, we use companies, like SMEs, and also the people. Normal people doesn't matter whether urban people or coastal communities or students. So example, if you were interested in researching SME owners in Malaysia, then the population would be all SME owners in Malaysia. Okay, so you cannot select your samples only from Terengganu. So it cannot generalize the whole population. Yeah, I don't know how to. Okay, all right. So, however, it's very unlikely for you to be able to interview all of the SMEs owner in Malaysia. There's a lot of SMEs owner in Malaysia, right? So you are likely only be able to assess maybe a few of them, maybe a few hundreds of them, if you are lucky, right? So these few hundreds of SME that you can get from the total population, it means can generalize the findings for the total population. Only because if you no need for you to go to every single SME honors, because normally the answers maybe will be the same. So it's no need for you. You just collect the samples from the total population. So this group of accessible people, which is SMEs honor, is called sample. It's just like the population is the full chocolate cake, and a slice of that cake is a sample. So no need for you to collect the data from all the population, because you can generalize the findings from the samples towards the population. Right. Probability sampling. So probability sampling is a completely random sample from the population. Because earlier, the sampling method, we have two, probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So now we discuss about the probability sampling first. So it's a completely random sample from the population. So by using a complete random sample, the results of your study normally will be generalizable to the entire population. It means that you can expect the same results across the entire groups without having to collect data from the entire group. No need. It will waste your time and also it waste your money. So that is, you can generalize the findings. So this is probability sampling. So we will look into types of probability sampling that you can choose for your study. So we have these are the 4 types of probability sampling that commonly used in most study in this most study. But then there's other probability sampling that you can get from, you can Google, or maybe you can read from the statistic book and so forth. But today I will discuss only about these 4 commonly used probability sampling. So number 1 is simple random sampling. Okay, so simple random sampling, meaning that each member of the population has an exactly equal chance of being selected. So it's tricky. Sometimes students miss out. Because they don't really understand what does it mean by simple random sampling. So in their study, actually in real life, the student use other types of sampling. For example, maybe stratified, but then in write up, she or he mentioned that they use simple random sampling. So this is also one of the famous famous questions that normally asked by the examiner during Viva. So be careful. You have to understand it very much about what types of sampling that you are going to use in your study. So simple random sampling, meaning that every single population has the exactly equal chance of being selected. So because simple random sampling also have a few types how to to use as a simple random sampling. So you have to understand that. Number 2 is a systematic random sampling. All right. In systematic random sampling, is also probability sampling. But how are you going to do it? How are you going to select a sample? By using systematic random sampling. Okay, first, the first unit of the inclusions in the sample is selected randomly. Okay, the first one you select it randomly. But then after that, the rest are selected in the ordered fashion, as if 1 out of every 10 or 5 people or in the population on the list. You understand or not? Okay, for example, if you use systematic random sampling, the first one you select, and then after that you will select, you decide it. It's not you decide which one. Some students, they say that I want to select it every 10 of the people in my list. So the first number, the first person in your list is your first sample, or respondents. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this one is the number 2. Your second respondents. And then 11, 12, 13, 14 until 20. So 20 is your third respondents. Okay, you understand what I mean, right? So you select based on systematic random sampling. So you have to discuss that in your write-up, right? Then number 3 is stratified random sampling. So what is this? All right. Stratified random sampling, in which the selecting each units from a particular groups or a specific set of people in the sample. You arrange or classify by gender, for example, by position, managers, or managers, frontliners, CEOs, for example, in those particular organization. And then by age, maybe you want to arrange it. You classify them, gender, men and women, position, managers and clerks, for example, and their age. So within a particular industry, let's say you choose university as your industry. So then later you splitting the subjects into this group and then using simple random sampling to choose members from each group. All right, you understand, right? So gender, women and male and female. So you categorize them in the group, these two groups. So by using these two groups, you use simple random sampling to choose members from each group. So you select from, we call it from male group, how many? And then you select from female members, how many? So you use stratified random sampling. Because why? Because you want to make sure that at least the proportion of male and female are almost similar. So maybe that is what your study is all about. Yeah. So it depends on your study again, and that is only the example. Yeah. So lastly, is cluster random sampling. Yeah. This cluster random sampling is a way to randomly select participants from a list that is too large for simple random sampling. If you have too many samples, then the researcher randomly select the area, maybe city, maybe institution, maybe urban areas, that kind of things, and randomly select them within those boundaries. This is cluster. You class them from, let's say you want to study, you want to study child care centers in Malaysia. So maybe you cluster them according to north, south, west, and east of Malaysia. So it depends on you. But you have to, when you choose this type of sampling or probability sampling, this type of probability sampling, you have to justify it, why you use all these types. Yeah. Okay. Now we look at the non-probability sampling. Okay. Right. Non-probability sampling is a sampling technique in which the researchers select samples based on the subjective judgment of the researcher. Okay. It is clearly stated there, judgment, based on subjective judgment of the researcher. So that is a probability sampling. Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons why we use non-probability sampling compared to probability sampling. Yeah, because maybe, for example, now in this situation, COVID-19 situation is difficult. It's difficult for you or for students to collect data based on probability sampling, because you cannot go to a certain area in Malaysia. For example, you cannot go to Kelang, you cannot go to Shah Alam, you cannot go to Putrajaya, or you cannot go to Melaka, for example. Yeah. So because of that, you have to use non-probability sampling. Yeah, so there's a lot of other reasons. So in your study, you have to justify it, why you choose non-probability sampling in your study. Yeah, so non-probability is a subjective judgment of the researcher. You have to justify why you choose them. So the sample is selected based on non-random criteria. Meaning that not all members of the population have an equal chance of participating in the study, because you use your judgment. You are not using your random criteria. Yeah. Okay. For example, you want to study about a coastal community coastal community in Malaysia. So sometimes you cannot use the non-random, you cannot use a probability sampling because maybe in the area, maybe at that time in Kelantan, for example, have a monsoon and raining or flood, so you cannot go there. So you say that never mind, you collect the samples which is convenience to you, near to you maybe, no need for you to go to Kelantan or to Johor to collect it. Because of a few things that happen around in the environment. And also other things, other reasons that contribute to your study. So there are these are the I listed about 5 types of non-probability sampling, which is this. These are the one that the most popular that been used in the study. So like convenience sampling, and then voluntary response sampling, purposive sampling, and snowball sampling and quota sampling. Okay, so we will discuss later in next slides. Why I cannot use? Why I can move the slides? I cannot move the slides. Somebody, can you? What happened here? Because I cannot move my slides.
Can you stop sharing the slide and then begin to share again?
All right. So how to stop? Escape. I cannot. How to stop the slide? Because dia keluar one page lah, satu screen ni semua keluar my slides. I tried to minimize dia pun tak dapat. Macam mana escape dulu? Okay, I got it. Okay, got it. Hang on. So tekan dulu this one. Sorry, salah ni.
Kita keluar dulu.
So
can slideshow.
Okay, kejap. Kenapa bila I tekan ni dia keluar benda ni Yang I punya sekejap tak ada lah I punya tu. Macam mana buat
tekan dulu.
Speaking. Tekan apa? Tak ada. Dia tak ada selalu. Kan kena ada sepatutnya ada apa WEBEX punya ni kan page. Tak ada WEBEX page. Apa
apa yang terpaparkan tu mana semua nampak ni, cuma nak tekan yang dekat slide tu, nak tekan slideshow. Belakang
sorry, this is not this one. Okay, nampak dah. Okay, yes, I'm so sorry. Okay, right. Okay, can okay, right. So stop sharing. Okay, so non-probability sampling. Okay, so now we will discuss about the types of non-probability sampling. So these are 5 non-probability sampling that normally used by the researcher. The first one is the convenience sampling. Normally a lot of people use it, which is the samples are selected from the population only because they are conveniently available to the researcher. As a convenience sampling. But if you want to use the convenience sampling, you have to justify it clearly in your thesis. Yeah. So there are actually two school of thoughts when we talk about convenience sampling. Some say that we cannot use for level master or PhD, we cannot use convenience sampling. But nowadays they can. We can use convenience sampling. Yeah, we can use it with a proper justification why you want to use the convenience sampling. Yeah, so there is no such thing that we cannot use convenience sampling in our study. Okay, we can use it. Right. Then the next, the second types of non-probability sampling is voluntary response sampling. So this one is where the researcher normally requests for the members of the population to join as samples in their study. So those people have to decide whether they want to be in the sample or not. They want to be respondents or not. So these types is voluntary response sampling, meaning that they are volunteer to be a sample. So you can do that as well. Yeah, and then number 3 is purposive sampling, or sometimes we call it a judgment sampling. Yeah, so purposive sampling also I come across that most of many students love to use purposive sampling because it's suitable for their studies. Yeah, so here we select the samples based purely on the researcher's knowledge, your knowledge and your credibility about your sample and about your study, about your subjects. What do you want to analyze, for example? So you are the one who knows about your study. So you have a knowledge about the samples that you want to select. Yeah? So samples who are deemed to fit to participate in your research study. So that is the purposive sampling. Yeah. Then because purposive meaning that you do this to analyze, for example, to see the perceptions of students from urban school, for example. So you know already who is your sample. That is purposive sampling. Yeah. For example, there's a lot of others purposive sampling that you can use. Yeah, depends on your study. Okay. Then a snowball sampling. This snowball sampling helps researchers to find a sample when they are difficult to locate. You want to know, you have a study, but you don't know where your study is. Where do your study normally live, for example. So it works like the referral programs. Yeah. So once the researchers find suitable subjects, he asks them for assistance to seek similar subjects to form a considerably good sample size. Yeah, so that is snowball sampling. You ask one person, and then you ask them to tell you where are the other person, where can I locate the other person. Just like you, for example, because this person is your sample. You find this person and then you ask that person, do you know any other persons or friends that knows about this subject? So I need to know about a few things about this about this subject matter, for example. So you ask them. So we call it a snowball sampling. Yeah. Okay. Lastly is quota sampling. So quota sampling is researchers create a sample involving individuals that represent a population and choose this individual according to specific trait or their qualities. For example, to study the career goal of male and female aged 30 to 50 years old employees in an organization. So you have a quota there. You have a male and female aged between 30 to 50. Yeah, so are your quota sampling, which is the employee in the organization. So these are 5 non-probability sampling that you can use, yeah, as your sampling method in your study. But again, when you want to use all these types, you have to justify why you want to use this. Yeah. Okay. Here is the differences. Yeah. Hang on, yeah. There's one. Sorry, yeah, because I got message from one of the slide not appear. Tak nampak eh. So I have to share. Let's see again, yeah. Sorry, you guys. I don't know about this. Let me check again. So share. Okay, can you see? Can you see the slides, guys? Somebody, you have to. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ada, for sending me a message. But earlier you can hear my voice, but just not the slide, right? Okay. So let me. Okay, now. Sorry. So this is the one that yes, dapat dengar. Okay. You can hear my voice, but you cannot see the slide. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah. So we already discussed about this. And these are the sampling methods for non-probability sampling. I already told you earlier. Then never mind. I will share my slides. I will give my slides to Encik Fitri, and if you want to, my slide, I will give it to him, and then we can collect from him. Yeah. Then these are the types, and these are all those types of non-probability sampling. Yeah. So now these are the differences between non-probability sampling and probability sampling. Yeah. So if you can see there in your right, probability sampling, the sample is selected at randoms. Must be randoms, because we want to make sure that equal chances of every single population being selected in your study. So there is probability, but in non-probability sampling, sample selected based on subjective judgment of the researcher. Then non-probability sampling, also not everyone has equal chance to participate, but in probability, everyone in population has equal chance. Then the research does not consider sampling bias in non-probability sampling. So probability sampling used when sampling bias has to be reduced. Then this another one is useful when population has similar trait, and so you can use probability sampling. But in probability sampling, useful when the population is diverse, because that's why you have to select a lot of randomly, because their behavior is not similar, for example. So it's advisable for you to choose probability sampling compared to non-probability sampling. So the samples does not accurately represent the population, of course lah. In probability sampling, it's not accurately represent, because you use your judgment only in order to select the samples. And then findings respondents is easy, and the other one, probability sampling, findings the right respondent, is not that easy. So it's up to you which one you want to use, whether non-probability sampling or probability sampling. But whatever you use, you have to justify it why you use that types of sampling methods. Okay, now is data collection. Data collection methods. Yeah. So data collection. There's a lot of data collection methods. Yeah, you can collect your data using a lot of methods. Yeah, but so in here, I list down a few that normally used by the researcher. Yeah, the top of the list. Yeah, I know. I think most of the researcher use surveys by using questionnaire in collecting their data, whether online or face to face or by telephone and whatsoever. And again, another one is interviews. You also can collect the data in quantitative methodology by using interviews. By you interviews with respondents, and you use an unstructured or semi-structured or structured questionnaire. You already have the questionnaire, then you just interview them. Maybe interview face to face also. You can interview via telephone. And also, WhatsApps or whatsoever. Any types of tools that you can use as long as you can get the data from them. Yeah. Then number 3 is a focus group or group interviews. Yeah. You can focus groups, meaning that you can, you have a group of people, maybe 3 or 5. Yeah. So you interview them. Yeah. About the related study on your study. Ask them. So you use focus groups. The most famous focus groups that normally use is when your samples is students, and not university students, but school. Kids normally, they use focus groups because it's very difficult for kids, especially primary school students, to answer your questions by survey or by interview by phone. It's very difficult for them to understand it. So researcher normally use focus groups with them. Okay. And then so it depends. Sometimes we also use focus group among Bilal, for example, Bilal in mosque, or among among a few people that you think that they will have difficulties to understand your questionnaire. So it's much better for you to use focus group, or group interviews with them. Yeah, because sometimes if you give a survey or questionnaire to them, they don't understand your questions, even though you use your own language, their own language. But then, maybe they're not, for example, a fisherman, because most of the fishermen normally some of them they don't go to school. Some of them even don't know how to read. Yeah, so you have to use focus group face to face with them, to get a reliable data. Don't ever pass the questionnaire to them. Sometimes also happen in the if you your context is in the island, a very small island somewhere. Sometimes we don't know how they communicate and how they understand each other. So you have to use focus group. You cannot, because the data is very important for you. A valid data is very reliable, and valid data is important for you to answer your research questions. Okay. So and then also you can use questionnaire observations, and then you observe them by using your questionnaire. You have the question and then you observe them by body language and so forth. And then documents and record review, you can do that as well. Case studies, you can do that. Diaries, journals, self-reported checklists and so forth. So for example, diaries and self-reported checklists, sometimes sometimes this is reliable for the researcher if, for example, they want to study about how people or how kids eat their food, junk food, for example, for a week, for a month. So you ask them to put it in the diary or self-reported checklist in their diary. So you give it to them, and then at the end of the weeks you collect it from them. So from that you can analyze the data from what they wrote in their diary. So it depends. Again, it depends on what types of study you are doing. And then also the expert judgment. Expert judgment is related to maybe some things that you studies about about only a few. You have only a few samples. Maybe, for example, expert judgment, you are studying about criminals. About criminals in Malaysia. For example, let's say a pedophile. So who are the correct experts for you, a correct sample for you to collect? So maybe there's not many of the not many samples are there in Malaysia. So maybe you can use experts judgment from the police, not a normal police, but then maybe a person that have a direct relationship, or direct contacts with those people that you are studying. So that is expert judgment. So normally expert judgment is the sample is not that many. Because you need their expert in certain related subject that not many people knows about. And then you can use Delphi techniques and also other techniques that are not listed here, but there are a lot. You can find it in Google, and also you can Google it, and also in books, in statistical books. Okay. And then, these are the surveys or questionnaire, which is the one that normally I use. Oh my God, that normally used by the researcher. So you can use online or physical survey, right? Especially at this time during COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of researchers use online surveys. Or also you can use mail. You can use mail, but sometimes it's difficult for you to get back all those questionnaire back from them. Online, telephone, email service, or interviews, and these are the types of surveys that you can use. You can distribute the questionnaire to them. The other one is you normally a researcher use self-administered questionnaire, which is we distribute it to the samples. Self-administered. So when we talk about self-administered questionnaire, meaning that we give the questionnaire to them, and then they do it at their own time and at their own pace. Oh my God, sorry, there's somebody doing something. Okay. So, however, self-administered questionnaires, sometimes some issues will occur. For example, issues of language and also the translation, because there's a lot of us use back-to-back translation. From English to Malay, from Malay back to English, or from English to Malay to English and back to Malay. So sometimes during that translation, the meaning is, it's difficult for the samples to understand, because they are self-administered questionnaire. They are using it. It's not in front of us. If in front of us, it's easy for us to tell them what to answers. Yeah, but the self-administered questionnaire is types of easier for the researcher and saving times and so forth. Yeah? All right. So this questionnaire, some of it is structured. And another thing is we can use also self-structured, and sometimes we combine it together. Yeah. So structured questionnaire, meaning that everyone asks exactly the same question in exactly the same way, given exactly the same choice. I think normally everybody use this. All those I use this all the times, yeah, because it's easier for us to analyze later on. So for semi-structured, we ask same general set of questions, but answers to the questions are predominantly open-ended. Some of the questions are open-ended, so they can answer it. So this is also can give what you call this can give the findings a fruitful findings or a rich finding to our study by using predominantly open-ended, because sometimes the answer that we use in structured questionnaire is not there's other answers to that. So we make it open-ended. So for our respondents to write down what are the answers to that questions. So from that we know that there's other findings that we can get, and not on by use semi-structured. So it depends on you, which one you want to use. Yeah. Okay, statistical analysis methods. Yeah? So a quantitative data analysis is about analyzing numbers, right? Again, in the beginning, yeah, I already explained it to you. Quantitative data is about numbers, and because we translate all those variables and all those statements, items in measurement into numbers, so that it's easier to analyze it using any software. For example, we can use SPSS, we can use PLS, we can use PLSSM, we can use a lot of things, a lot of software that you want to use that is suitable for your study. Yeah. So it involves two types of statistical analysis. One is this is the most simplest statistic analysis lah, yeah, descriptive statistic and inferential statistics. Yeah, so to choose the right statistical methods and techniques needs to consider your type of data. Yeah, what types of data are you collecting? Yeah, whether it's nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. So all this is there in SPSS menu, so you can use it. And also it's based on research questions and your hypothesis. So to choose the right statistical method based on type of your data and also your questions and your hypothesis. Yeah. Okay, descriptive statistic. This is the basic calculation, the most simplest statistic, which is you describe about your data. Normally, we just describe it, and descriptive statistic is about describing the sample. Yeah, for example, you describe about your samples profile, your respondents profile, how many male, how many female, how old are they, where do they live, their education level, their income, and so forth. And so it is about describing the profile of them. Yeah. So a common descriptive statistic techniques, for example, we see about the mean and the average. We also can use descriptive statistic if you want to see, if you want to know the level of perception among students, for example, or the level of awareness of the respondents towards healthy eating, for example. So you can use mean. Yeah, you see the mean, so the mean can translate into what are their level of awareness, what are their levels of perceptions towards certain things. Yeah, so you can use means. Yeah, you translate these numbers into meanings, and then you can explain it in your thesis. Yeah, and then also you use median to explain about to describe about your samples, yeah, and also standard deviation or the variance among the answers among them, yeah, skewness, and also etc. So all those is the common descriptive statistic techniques that you can gauge from this sample from the data, yeah. And then we look at the inferential statistics. Okay. Um, so more for inferential statistics, they are more sophisticated analysis. It's not just like just to see the mean, yeah, over the variance. No, so now we are using a more sophisticated analysis. Yeah, we still can use SPSS to test their differential by using t-test, ANOVA. Also, you can use correlations and also regression analysis. Yeah. So this inferential statistic you can use for hypothesis testing, in which to test the statements, testing the statements of change or of differences. So you want to see, you want to test your hypothesis, you can use inferential statistic by using whether correlation or a regression analysis. And also you can use PLS, PLS-SAMS dan juga a few things others, yeah. Delphi techniques also you can use. Yeah, there's a lot of software that you can use as long as that methods can answer your hypothesis, and then you can do it. You have to justify it why you use those things. Yeah? And then it aims to make predictions about what the study find in the population based on observation in the sample data. So when you you use inferential statistics and so forth, and then you can answer the hypothesis testing, so you can predict about your study in the real world, in the population. Yeah. So based on your study, based on your findings, you predict that among Malaysian, for example, among Malaysian, most of them are not aware with these organic food that been that has in the market, for example. Yeah? So you can predict what's going to happen. So at least you can, when you can predict, you can suggest. You can suggest to the marketers, you can suggest to policymakers, you can suggest to the organization, also to the government, what to do to increase the awareness among the population in Malaysia. Because of you got it, your findings say this, and then you can predict what's going to happen, and from that data that you, from the findings that you get from your study, then you can predict what happened, and then you can suggest. So that is how your study will contribute to the to the new knowledge. Yeah. Or to the organization or to the government. Yeah. Then in terms of predictions, you can predict about differences between groups. For example, height differences between children's group by their favorite meal. Maybe in your study you used you study on children's. You study them for 6 months or a year maybe, to see their height with the favorite meal that they eat every single day. So maybe there is a correlation there. There is a differences between a group of children that eat healthy food with a group of children that eat whatever she or he wants. Yeah, so that is the differences between. You can predict that, and you are using your findings from your studies. Yeah. Then you also can predict about the relationship between variables from your findings. Yeah. For example, the relationship between body weight and the numbers of hours a week a person does yoga exercise, for example. So you can see the relationship. If, for example, yeah, if that person they use yoga exercise every day in a week. So when you see them, and then you can see that they have a very good body weight. Yeah, or compared to a person that only do yoga exercise once a week. Yeah, so please, people, we need to exercise. Yes. Okay, so this about the influential statistic, but also you can use any others, any other software, PLSM, a lot of studies depend on you, yeah, to as long as it can answer your hypothesis testing. Okay, recap. Overall research methodology. Yeah. First, you have to state your objective of the survey or objective of your study, and what are your aims. What do you want to study? Okay, this is your objective of your study. So you have to have your objective of the study. Then from that, you define the variables to be determined to answer your research question or research objective. So define your variables. Yeah, what variables that you want to study. To answer to get your study objective. Then state the method that you want to use, either quantitative or qualitative or mixed method. Later, you define the target population. Who are your population? Student in the university in all Malaysia, because we have a lot of university in Malaysia. You can say that university is your population, and also define the sample size. Who are the samples for your study? Define the sampling method, and then select the samples, and then define the data collection methods. What types of data collection that you want to use. We discussed earlier as well. Define the measurement instrument. What types of measurement that you want to use. Because the measurement the instrument that you want to use is very critical. Because if you use a wrong measurement, it cannot. The results will be it cannot answer. It is not valid to your study. So make sure to use the right measurement. And then lastly, to define the data analysis method. What types of data analysis that you want to use. Okay, as a final note, I never guess. This is what Sir Arthur Conan Doyle said. I never guess. Don't guess, because in research we cannot guess, but we hypothesize, and then we test whether it's right or wrong, it has a relationship or not, positive or not, or whatsoever. So I never guess. It is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts and theories instead of theories to suit facts. So this is what Sir Arthur Conan Doyle said as a never guess. All right, so I think that's it for today for this topic. So if you have any questions, and if I can answer your question, I will answer it briefly. Okay, so we can go back to stop sharing. Okay. Okay, so any questions? Maybe if you want to ask anything. There is one. I use cluster sampling to my research. My question is how to determine the number of cluster to be sampled. For example, obtain 12 cluster and I will sample 6 cluster. What is the justification and how to determine the number of sample in the cluster? So, okay, I don't know who asked this question. You use a cluster sampling, yeah. So, how to determine the number of cluster to be sampled, for example. So I cannot, I don't know who, oh banyak, sorry, banyaknya. Okay, sekejap Wait, I have to go up to read your chat. What else? Hanan, I want to join WhatsApp. Okay. Oh, Siti Adawiyah. Aisyah. Okay. Oh, bye-bye. Amira. Tak ada soalan. Yang tu je soalan. That's the only questions. Yeah. So if there is other question lagi tak? I check dulu from the above. Permission to ask, in writing this thesis, how many, this is from Fidian Shah. Yeah. A line from UMT. Okay, in my for these questions, in my experience, we don't have standard guideline for variables. It depends on your study. It depends on your study. Okay, we don't have any guideline. We don't have 2 is enough, 4 is enough. For example, no. It depends on your study, because the variable that you choose to use in your study, it actually comes from literature review. Okay. After you read a lot of literature, then from there you will pick up what variables that suit your study, suit your context of the study. Because sometimes when your samples of study is in Jordan, for example, some of the variables maybe not suitable for you to use there. So it depends on your study again. What else? What is the drawback using the non-probability sampling for PhD or Islamization? Okay. There is one student asked, what is the drawback using the non-probability sampling for PhD, or is it okay using it? Okay. Like I said earlier, there is two school of thoughts. Before this, normally the examiners, it depends on the examiners, guys. Because some of the examiners, they are very rigid about this. They said that for PhD students, must use probability sampling. You cannot use non-probability. But during my times, maybe yes, because it's in his one of I think 3 of his workshop. So Prof Ramaya keep on telling us, we can use non-probability sampling. Okay, we can use it, even though in PhD. But you have to justify it, why you use it. About this, why you can use non-probability sampling. And Prof. Ramaya also told us back in this workshop, he said that we can use mentioned about this non-probability, can use it in PA sampling, cite those papers. I think I have some, but I have to search for it in my laptops, because I still remember Prof. Ramaya did give us the sample of his paper, so that you can get it from the website as well, or internet. So you can use it. For me, I always told my student, you can use non-probability sampling as long as you have the justification about it. Same goes to, never mind, I will talk later. I will go, I will check the questions first, there's another question. How many we can take the sample from the population? Okay, this one also goes to you methods, your methodology, because it depends. If you cited, like say a hair say maybe 300 plus is suitable for the social science. So if you cited those people and then you do it there, but sometimes you use some of the students, and also some of it use the justification. 800 samples, actually the findings is almost similar with the 300 samples. So why should you? Because it's already generalized those population. And the answer is almost similar. So that's why in most of the the authors or the past researchers, they suggest a few, 300 something, or depends. So you cited what you need to do. You cited whoever scholars, and then you use that. So you will be safe. Yeah, but you must be cited, and you must cite some of the related scholars that you have doing the same and that kind of similar study with you. Yeah, don't choose that scholars that use that they use a different kind of study with you, but then you cited him, so it will maybe not suitable for you. So please find scholars that use the similar studies with you, and then you can cite him. So that is how we, judge how many samples for your study. Yeah? It depends. Yeah, different study have a different amount of samples. What else? Any other questions? Kindly send us this value. Okay, I will give my slides to Encik Fitri, and maybe Encik Fitri later will email to you. I need this slide. Yeah, I will email. What? I got. And what else? Okay, this one. I use cluster. Of my research question is how to determine the numbers of cluster to be sampled. For example, obtain 12 cluster and I will sample 6 cluster. Oh, I don't understand how many cluster are there in your study. What is the justification of how to determine the numbers of sample in the cluster? So again, I cannot answer on your behalf about your study because I don't know what is your study is all about. Yeah, so if I suggest this and that, and then maybe it's not right. So like I said earlier, there are types of sampling methods that you can use, and you have to read, you have to understand every single of it, and then compare it with your study, if your context of study, if your sample, so then only you can justify which method is suitable. So because I don't know what types of study are you in. Yeah, and also you can discuss it with your supervisor as well. I believe they have a lot of knowledge on this. How to find novelty variables or measurement variables. Okay, about the variables here, actually, if you ask where to find it, actually it's all inside the journals and the articles that you are reading. You have to read articles, because actually that's why for PhD or for master students, you have to read a lot of literature, past studies, most or many of the journals, or articles at the end of this of his or her articles, sometimes they include the measurement that they already used, so you can use it as a to use in your study. Sometimes you may be you not use it 100%, can what you call it, rephrase. You rephrase the verbs, you rephrase the statements that given by them. That's why I always advise my students, for your references, please use a good journals. You understand what I mean, you refer a good journal. You find the journals in maybe in Scopus, or WES engine. Yeah. Don't just just type and then you quote it. You use measurement from articles from what you call that from it's not Mickey Mouse journals. Mickey Mouse journals meaning that it's not first or WOS. Please make sure your references, your journals, your articles in from Scopus or from WOS. Yeah. So when you use their measurement or the items that they normally from if Q1 papers at the end of the articles normally they will include the measurement. Yeah. So try not to use articles from unpublished data or from the conferences, unless they already published in good journals. Okay, so that is how you can find the measurement. Write your source of measurement. So if the examiner check your thesis, they knows that you got this measurement from a good paper, has been cited by many. Yeah. So can you please define the ANOVA test? Okay. Gulam asked this question. So can you please define the ANOVA test? Okay, ANOVA test is about you want to see the differences, the differences between three groups, more than two groups. Yeah. For example, you want to see the differences between age group. Age group. You have, let's say in your study you have 4 age group. 20 to 30, 30 to 40 years old, 40 to 50 years old, 50 and above, for example. So this is so see the differences among them, among these 4 group. Either is there any differences among age, among age towards what? Towards healthy eating, for example, or towards perceptions towards what? COVID-19, for example. You understand what I mean? So you test about more than 2. But for t-test, it's about 2 groups only. For example, male and female. You want to see the differences between these 2 only. Or married or not married. Married or single lah, not married. Married or single, right? These 2 only. So you can use t-test. You cannot choose ANOVA. But if more than 2 groups, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 you can use ANOVA. All right? Okay, you want to see the differences among them. All right. What else? Then with sample, I need to use, should I use stratified sampling and then common random sampling? Okay, this fella, or Aisha Khan, it's not fella, it's a lady. Salam, I have a question. If I'm using the 2-level data like manager and their subordinates, then which sampling I need to use? Should I use stratified sampling and then common random sampling and then common random? Yeah. Okay. In this sense, you use managers and subordinates, but you combine it together, right? This manager and subordinate. Am I right? Or you have, okay. Or you have 2 groups and they want to see the differences as well. Yeah. So I think you can use stratified sampling. Yeah. Can, because you already know that the let me see. Let me choose. Hang on. Where is it? Okay. Kalau stratified, yeah, you can use stratified, stratified random. Use because you have one group of managers and you have one group of subordinate. Yeah. Okay. Then you use random from that group. You use random sampling. Random sampling as well. You can use whether you want to use systematic or really a random sampling. It's up to you. Use your justification on that. Okay, if we want to distribute the questionnaire to the senior in the 3 different companies from the same sector, what is the sample? Is it a purposive sample or cluster sample? Purposive senior, same sector. What is the sample? Is it purposive sample or cluster sample? Oh my god! So this question I really cannot. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. I can't remember about this. The question, if we want to distribute the questionnaire to the senior in 3 different companies, senior meaning that top management, yeah, from the same sector, what is the sample? Is it purposive sample or cluster? I think maybe you can use purposive also can use, yeah, because I remember one of my students use purposive because you know already you want to distribute the question to the senior managers, for example, so you know where they are, who they are. Yeah. Okay, I think purposive sample is you can use the purposive. How many questions good enough to the study? How many samples enough as well? How many question? A questionnaire? Good enough. How many questionnaire? What do you mean by how many questionnaire? This Amira asked me, Doctor, how many questions good enough for the study? How many sample good enough as well? Sample I already explained to you earlier, yeah. And then how many questionnaire? How many questionnaire? I don't understand. Questionnaire only one. Questionnaire only one, but maybe she want to ask me how many questions or items, yeah, in every variables. Maybe, yeah, is that the right questions? So it depends again. Yeah. All right. I've also I want to share my knowledge with when I joined Prof Ramaya workshop. Still learning, you guys, even though I already almost 10 more years in this line, but then I'm still learning. So are you, because so Ramaya did tell us that in questionnaire before this we said that 2 question, 2 items in one variables, we cannot use it because we cannot justify only 2 questions to answer, to justify or to explain about those variables. But then Prof Ramaya did tell us earlier, they said that actually two is not from the beginning, guys, but maybe you have 4. You have at the beginning you have 4 questions, for attitude, and then when you run, and then maybe the items you have to delete, right? Item deleted, so you have to delete 2 questions, so remaining 2 questions. So you still can use 2 questions, even though it's 2 questions, you still can use in your study for each variables. The minimum of the questions in each variables, 2, you still can use it. Yeah, this is what I learned from Prof Ramaya. Yeah. Salam, how many questions? Okay, I already answered that. Because we cannot to get a good variability of your Okay, I will how to find novelty again. Please, cited good papers, with good citation, Q1, Q2 in WOS or in Scopus. So you will get a a good novelty of your study. Yeah, don't cite Mickey Mouse journals. Yeah. As researcher, what things understood so that we can understand the research method? Oh my God. Yeah, in research method is a lot. You have to understand the whole, the whole process of the research method. You cannot only understand about the samples, but you also have to understand how to come up with the measurement. Yeah, you have to. You have to understand totally on the methodology. Yeah, so you have a good. Yeah. How to test mediating variables? Mediating variables, you can test it using SPSS as well. You can use using regressions, yeah, and also you can use it using PLS. PLSM, you can use it, and so it depends on you which one, which software that you want to use. Yeah. Can we both use qualitative and quantitative technique? Yes, you can. We call it mixed method. You can use both. It depends on you. But I don't know. But my advice to my students normally only because don't what you call it. Just one method is enough as long as it can answer your questions, right? Don't burden yourself. You study, you want to get PhD, right? And then you want to get knowledge. After you got PhD, and then later, if you want to use mixed method, and then you use it. You use it. Yeah? In fact, in my study for the grant research grant that I have, I did mention about we do a mixed method for my study. Yeah. So, but however, I use two student to do those. One student use qualitative methods about that study, and another student use quantitative methods because I know that students cannot cope with too many things that you have to learn. You need to learn, but it depends on you and also your supervisor. This is only my advice, yeah. But it depends on you, on your supervisors. If your supervisors and you yourself want to use two methods, go on, yeah. It's okay, yeah. But then, uh, it's will burden you later lah, yeah. Uh, if the population is finite and the sample size from the formula is less than 100, how we can justify the sample? Okay, one student asked me, Muhammad Ahmed Salah, if the population is finite and the sample size from the formula is less than 100, about this about the population is not many, yeah. I did come across the this in the Viva session, and then there is a paper that cited. There's a paper, but I'm so sorry, I can't remember offhand who's the author is. Yeah, but you can search in the websites and also in the internet and also in your library. There is past studies that mentioned about this, about the number of population is very small, so that of course lah, your sample is also small, right? And that is difficult to get them. So there is one paper talk about it, but I am so sorry I can't remember offhand of the title. But we did discuss it during last Viva. I think last year punya Viva we discussed about this. Yeah, but there is a past study talk about this. Maybe you can find it. Or sometimes maybe if the population is small, what you can do is maybe you can use a qualitative methods, and also maybe some of mixed method, because you know the population is quite small. For qualitative, no need for you to collect samples, because in qualitative there is terms called saturated answers, right? If you go to a and then you meet 5 people already, and then all those 5 people are telling you they answer the same answers. So it means that your data is already saturated in that place. So you have to move to another place. So this is qualitative lah. Yeah, you have to go to the to the next coming workshop for qualitative. But if your sample, so your population is small, I think my advice is maybe you can use qualitative methods to answer your questions. But quantitative also you can use it. Like I said earlier, there is a study has been done on that. Yeah. What is NDV? IV is independence and DV is dependence, right? Between IV and DV, you already, let's say you have the hypothesis. Let's say your IV is attitude affect exercise, affect we call that eating or consuming healthy food, for example. So that is your one hypothesis, the relationship between IV and DV. So when you test it, it's positive. For example, if you have a good attitude or maybe self-efficacy, you know what is self-efficacy? Your motivation to do it, right? Self-efficacy. If you have a very strong self-efficacy, so that you will eat healthy food, that is a positive relationship. Okay, one hypothesis. Another hypothesis is you want to see the moderator. So moderator is between these two, these two. Yeah. Between IV and DV, there is one variables. Yeah, when you, one variables that you want to test, for example, income ke? Or income lah, for example, income. You want to see whether income levels of these respondents affect or not the relationship between his or her self-efficacy towards healthy eating. That is moderator, in between. I mean, it's not in between. In whether if you include this moderator, the relationship between IV and DV is more stronger or lower than that. That is moderator. But for mediate meaning that is in between. Sorry, tadi the earlier is not between. Mediator is in between. You already test IV to DV, and then you put one mediator in the middle. So you want to test whether if you put that mediator, the relationship between IV and DV is stronger or not, or affected or not. Yeah, whether you have to have a good income, then only you will buy a healthy food. That is the mediator. There's something mediate in between of them. Moderator they affect between these two relationships. Yeah, I don't have the graph and so forth. If I have a graph, I can show you, but you can have it. You can Google. It's very easy to see. What else? We almost 1 o'clock already. Yeah. If the purple novelty, the population. If the population is what else? Is there any questions? I think that's all. A lot of people ask about the novelty. Novelty is something like, something that your research can bring a new knowledge to the academics. Novelty about something not your study between other study is not the same. You have something that different. That is the novelty. That is your contribution. And that's why in PhD, the contribution is very important. You cannot use a duplicate study. Yes, some of students, they just duplicate the study that has been done in let's say in US, and then he duplicated in Malaysia or in anywhere else lah. So try to avoid that. Duplication is not a novelty for PhD. PhD must have something that contribute to the knowledge, whether it's contribute in terms of theoretical or your findings can contribute to the managerial. That is novelty, something new that come out from your research, from your study. So don't duplicate other study. If you duplicate and then people find out that it's the same study, so there's no novelty in your study. Make sure that you have a new knowledge, maybe in terms of new variables you introduce in your study, for example, or theoretical is different, combination of two theories in your study compared to before this, for example. So make sure a new knowledge is there. Don't duplicate. If you duplicate and people find out it's duplication of other studies, so they will say that there's no novelty in your PhD study. Okay. I think that's it. We 1 o'clock already. Okay, so thank you very much for being a very good audience. And I believe that all of you come from all over the world, right? And stay at home at this time. And all of you are doing masters at least, and PhD. So I would like to wish you all my very best, for your PhD or masters, So please, good luck and best of luck from me. And if you can, try to answer if I can answer it. But first, try to ask your supervisor first. Because you have the supervisor, you have to ask them first. Unless they ask you to ask me, then only you can ask, because sometimes supervisor have their own ways of teaching you. So please always go back to your supervisors. Okay? And so best of luck. Thank you very much. for participating in this, in this workshop. And I am so sorry if I, say anything that I don't know, because during that maybe I've said something that you don't like. I'm so sorry, and I hope that this a little bit of knowledge from me, can give, you can get something from what I talked to you today. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, you guys, and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us for almost 2 hours. Yeah. Best of luck. Yeah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum and selamat petang. Good afternoon. Thank you. Bye bye. I hope I can see you guys here in UMT one day. InsyaAllah. Okay. Assalamualaikum. Terima kasih.
Ya, demikian tadi kuliah sesi kedua riset metodologi dari UMT. Demikian, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.